Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. I'm currently using my Elgato cam link to record this video. It's the first one that I'm doing with it. Let me know if you like it, and if you want to pick up a cam link for yourself, there's a link in the description down below. Today, I want to talk about something that I think is awful, like completely awful, that Treyarch are doing in Black Ops 4 Zombies. When I completed the 9 Easter egg for the first time, the Easter egg worked in a certain way. The steps worked in a way that was fairly straightforward to understand once we had figured them out. There weren't any real questions remaining about steps in the Easter egg that we didn't understand and that we still needed to figure out, and so I was able to make my guide straight away. I posted my guide straight away, and all of you guys then started using it to do the Easter egg. And up until a day or two ago, that was fine. There were no problems with it, and people were using the guide without issue. And then, Treyarch decided that for some unknown reason, apparently, the Easter egg that we did on launch, that you all watched on launch in my stream that very first time we ever did it, and that you then did in-game yourself once my guide was up covering the steps, that Easter egg was wrong. And actually, they needed to make a tiny change to it that means that the guide now is incorrect. It's as if I've messed up and made a mistake. And so, if you were playing on patch 1.0 sort of thing of the game, if you were playing on that launch patch, you would have one form of Easter egg, and now they've changed the game, so that Easter egg step is no longer the same. And in this case, it's a tiny thing, okay? In the 9 Easter egg, when you're appeasing the god Zeus, the beginning of that process involves you turning several screws by shooting them, and they're in the underground area of the map. Now, the way it worked for me in my game is that I turned all the screws, and then I teleported, and the screws then appeared above ground, and I would fill them up with souls. That was the step. Now, Treyarch have switched things around, so you teleport first, it locks you underground so you can't leave, and then you have to turn the screws in order to be able to get out, and then you can fill them up. Now at the time, my thinking was, okay, they're making us turn the screws, but they can't procedurally make the screws appear above ground. They're not gonna have that model kind of moving above ground because it just clips through the floor. That's not the way that's gonna work. And so I was thinking at the time, what they're probably doing is they're making us turn the screws, and then they teleport us underground, and when we teleport after we've turned them, that's an indication that we need to pack a punch in order to do the step, because Pap is underground, and then when we run back above ground, we can see the screws, we can see the effects on the floor, and we don't see them spawn in. So there was no reason for me for that to change. The step was clear, we teleported so we could go to Pap, and it was fine. But apparently, it wasn't fine for Treyarch, for reasons unknown, and so now, anyone that watches the guide sees the part of my video where I'm like, yes, and now you need to turn the screws, and they start looking for the screws, when now instead, you have to teleport first, and then you turn the screws, and then you're allowed to go upstairs. It just feels like a completely useless change. It feels like a change for the sake of changing it, and I was saying this on Twitter as well, it completely breaks kind of Easter egg protocol. Like, as far as I am concerned, for an Easter egg, if it's functional and it gets you there, the way that Easter egg is on launch should be the way that Easter egg pretty much is throughout the rest of the game's history. I don't think that an Easter egg step should basically ever change unless the step is broken to an extent that it breaks the actual quest itself. As an example, the Whistler step in, the Darkest Shore? Was that the name of the map? I actually have forgotten at this point, but the Whistler step in that was bugged, it was broken, and so they fixed the whistlers, they didn't change the logic of the step, they just fixed the AI, and it was fine. Here, they haven't done an AI fix, it's not a clipping thing, it's not a zones thing, it's not a pathing thing, it's none of those things, it's just the order of something happening, and it's completely not necessary for them to change, and yet, they've done it, and now everyone that did that Easter egg in the first few days has learnt a process that is, admittedly in this case, only in a small way, but is wrong. It means that you can't compare speedruns on those maps because it's a different quest that you're doing. It means that all of the Easter egg tutorials, not just mine, but all of them on YouTube, up until patch 1.03 or whatever it was, are now wrong. It's useless. Useless change. Now, that in itself might seem like a very, very small deal. A lot of you are probably sitting there typing away right now, going, MrRoflWaffles, that just doesn't make any difference to me. Why do you care so much? You're moaning and whining about nothing at all. Let me explain further, okay? I thought it was just that step on 9. I was convinced that was all it was, but it's not. They've actually done stuff to Blood of the Dead now as well, and the Blood of the Dead changes, I think, are even worse, okay? In Blood of the Dead, there is an Easter egg step where you have to follow around a zombie soul that is normally not visible unless you shock it with your spectral shield. It will then become visible for about 5 seconds, in which time you need to give it the suck using your shield key. You rinse and repeat this while body blocking the ghost around the map about 7 or 8 times, and eventually the ghost spawns in, becomes visible permanently, and you kill it with a trap. That's the Easter egg step. Now, that's what all the guides say, that's the gameplay that all the guides have, and so in my guide, that's how I describe it. However, now, in-game, you spawn in the ghost, and then the ghost just stays visible for ages. But you can't actually give him the suck for ages. You have to give him the suck, and then after about 5 seconds, the suck will stop working, but you can hardly tell that it's stopped working because the ghost is still visible, and so you're holding your trigger, and if there's no other targets around, it gives you the impression that you're giving him the suck, because that's the way the game works, that's the indication the game gives you, but you're not. And so you're convinced you're doing the step when you're making no progress whatsoever. And then the ghost disappears after about 30 seconds or something now, or maybe even longer. Then you spawn him back in again. You only get about 5 seconds of suck, and it means that now people who watch the guide are going to be saying, why isn't my ghost disappearing? And then, why isn't my key working? This step is impossible because I'm sucking for like about 4 minutes total while the step's going on, but they don't realize that only about 5 seconds of it per suck is actually counting. Like, it's a change that did not need to happen. Treyarch, literally, all you needed to do, guys, if you wanted to make that step easier for people, because I know it was quite difficult, all you needed to do was just make it so that the ghost required fewer sucks. Instead, you've made a change that just doesn't make sense. And it again means that all the guides are wrong, all those Easter egg runs from pre-patch are now invalidated essentially because we weren't doing the proper Easter egg. Like, it's just silly. The list goes on. There's another step in the Easter egg where you play Simon Says, you get a punch card, and you get 3 codes which you translate using some computers. Then, you take those 3 codes and you basically enter them onto power machines in the first power room. The way you do this is you spectral blast a ghost who is going and sequentially trying to turn all of the levers. And the way I describe it in my guide, and the way every other YouTuber describes it in their guide, is you go up to the ghost, and then while the ghost is trying to turn the switch that you want to activate, you shield blast him, and then he'll basically give it another yank, and it will actually work that time, and he'll have turned that lever. And you need to do that for all 3 levers. That worked fine up until the patch. But now, for unknown reasons, we're not allowed to shield blast the ghost anymore while he's cranking the lever. No! That apparently is just not on. Can't be doing that. Instead, you specifically have to blast the ghost while he's on the way to the lever, but if he's too close to the lever that you want to do, he won't activate it. Huh? What? This one is not only a change that was unnecessary, just did not make sense compared to the previous stuff that we had. The previous stuff worked fine for this step. This is actually a worse off change now. This is something that worked fine before, but now makes the step more restrictive and frankly less intuitive. Why does it have to be when he's on the way? Why can't he be turning it like he's too close to the right machine? It doesn't work. He's further away, but going towards it, it does work. Just what? Now I'm sure there are other steps too that have changed to this point, because I thought it was just 9, like the wood chip for example. A bunch of people have been having problems with the wood chip. You need to make sure you've activated Pack-a-Punch first, so if you're playing 9 and you haven't activated PAP, make sure you've done that to get that wood chip, because apparently that's a prerequisite. But a bunch of people have been having issues there. Also try both pyres, actually, that's a pro tip too. A bunch of people have been having problems on other maps that they've been mentioning, but I've not really understood yet because I haven't had a chance just yet to go back and redo those Easter eggs. Like, I saw actually someone tweeting out saying that they were playing Classified, they were trying to do the Skady, basically, Easter egg quest for that Winter's Howl, and they were going to Area 51, and it was teleporting them home in a solo game after 30 seconds every time. Like, it wouldn't let them stay there. So, like, I don't know if they've changed something so that you have to do something to be able to stay there now, because you definitely didn't need to do that before. Another thing, actually, that it could end up being an issue for is the golden spork. We know the golden spork Easter egg steps to be get the spork, put it in the tub, get kills on the roof, drain the blood into the tub, drain the blood out of the tub, and then go and tomahawk the drain pipe sort of thing of the water tower to get your spork, because that's where the blood is. But then we found after the fact that that step was actually broken and the tower is meant to break, and then the spork falls out and goes onto a tree, and that's what you're meant to tomahawk. Now, I understand in this case that Treyarch have a scripted event that looks cool, that we're skipping in the upgrade process, but we were doing it fine without the scripted event, and so now, if they patch it so you have to do the water tower and knock that thing down before you can get the spork, then again, it's just gonna be another one of those cases where I don't think that change is beneficial for anybody whatsoever. It's not beneficial for Treyarch, and it's certainly not beneficial for us either. Us being YouTubers, us being players, us being everyone in the community. I just think, like, just do something else with the water tower, for goodness sake, please. It just doesn't need to be this way. I don't know, man. I think that it's absolutely awful that Treyarch are changing steps, and I don't know how I'm going to react as a YouTuber, because, first of all, I just hate this as a player. Like, as a player of the game, I think that this is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And it doesn't make the game feel more fresh. In case anyone's about to make that argument in the comments section, this is not the way to make a game more fresh. By changing Easter egg steps that you previously knew and slightly altering them into worse forms of their previous selves, nah, cut me out. I'm hoping that this is all some kind of mix-up at Treyarch. Like, I know they've brought in a lot of new staff for Black Ops 4. Those staff might not have been around for Black Ops 3 or Black Ops 2 or Black Ops 1 or every other game that they have made that has had Easter eggs in them. Every single other game. Like, oh, it triggers me so much. And so, as I was just about to say, I don't know how I'm going to react as a YouTuber. I just don't know. It might be that I am in a position where I need to end up making a guide for launch and then re-uploading a new guide every time there's a patch that changes steps, because my old guide now is outdated. And so I'm going to have to re-upload another 30-minute guide with one 10-second segment changed just because they completely arbitrarily changed this in a patch. What are you doing, Treyarch? Like, in case it wasn't sort of obvious enough from just the player's point of view, just in terms of promoting your game, it is incredibly important that you have a vibrant YouTube video kind of space, I would say, a landscape. And you hurt that landscape, Treyarch, every time you do something like this. Because yes, it's a new video to make, but it means that the content itself is much more confusing. Not everyone is playing on the same patch. And that means that I have to have 4 different guides up. People have to now know which patch they're playing on in order to know which is the right patch for them. Huh? No, you can't do that. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm gonna wrap this video up here because I'm triggered, like fully triggered, and I'm surprised that other people aren't making as much noise about this because I think that it's absolutely terrible. Hopefully Treyarch changes this back, but then at this point there'll be people making guides on the current patch. They're gonna be triggered as well. People that do their eggs on this patch are gonna be triggered too. Like, it's a lose-lose because Treyarch jumped in here and made a really silly decision. Not much we can do about it at this point though, but I had to get this out here, and I'm hoping that people make more noise about this in the community now, and other YouTubers get on board and talk about this, because I think it's a really big problem. That's the end of the video. Please leave a like if you agree. I'm triggered. I don't know where this is gonna go. Let me know if you like the new kind of angle and setup, because this is what I'm gonna be using for my streams, but like a cropped version of it, which this video might actually be cropped too, so you might not be able to see the actual full room. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like I've said, let me know if you agree or not in the comments down below. Please keep it nice. Let's be friendly to one another. It's okay to disagree. I'll see you guys very soon.